Tinfoil hat. Oh, what the fuck are you guys even talking about?
Global controls will have to be imposed, and a world governing body will be created to enforce them.
Welcome to Tinfoil Hat. We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Are you ready to get your mind blown?
Hey guys, welcome to an emergency episode of Tinfoil Hat, live from the Wise Wolf Gold and Silver Studios adjacent. Go to samtriply.gold, use the promo code TINFOIL, and get in on the precious metals game for as little as $50 a month. I decided to do an emergency episode with an investigative reporter named Stephen Horn. He, and along with Andy Go, have been doing some really great research into this trans killer cult that has been terrorizing the country. So I decided to do a quick episode. I just want to tell you real quick, if you're going to be in Arizona this week, I will be at the House of Comedy Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Then I'll be in Louisville, Fort Wayne, Detroit, Michigan, and then Tacoma. More dates to come. So, yeah, man, enjoy this episode. All right, hi, everybody, and welcome to a special emergency episode. I am very excited to talk to our next guest. I saw his tweets, and he was tweeting about the trans serial killer gang that was roaming America. And I said, I got to interview this guy. He's from North Carolina. Please welcome Stephen Horn. How are you, sir?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me.
Stephen, thank you so much for joining me. For our listeners who may not be familiar with you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where our listeners can find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter, Stephen E. Horn, or just put my name in the search bar. I'm not currently shadow banned, so I should show up.
God bless.
I'm just I'm just an independent journalist, so I report primarily on local news here in North Carolina, specifically in the Raleigh-Durham area, if anyone is familiar with the state.
Johnny would love to be talking to you. He's from North Carolina. We think about moving there all the time. So you can get a mansion
sorry,
there.
it's full.
Oh, really? Okay, because I have the LA hat on. You don't want me to come by? Okay, I respect that. I do respect that, man. I respect that. You saw it. You took your shot. I'm in. So where do you want to start, brother? I mean, this is such an interesting thing. We just had a really great investigative journalist on the show. The episode drops next week. His name is William Ramsey. He brought up this group of killers, and so I remember when he brought it up, I got very excited because I knew we were scheduled to do our interview, and I just think it's an incredible story. And you've been covering it. So where would you like to start?
I guess we could either start with some of the history and the timeline, or we could start with the ideology. Either way you want to play it.
Let's start with the which one will set it up better? Let's start with the ideology, and then we'll get into the history.
Yeah, so basically so I guess for anyone who isn't aware of which specific cult, killer cult we're talking about, this is they're called the Zizians, after sort of the transgender identity of the founder and leader Jack Ziz Lasoda. So basically where they come out of is the rationality community. And I'm probably doing a poor job describing it. Basically, they're all about thinking and how to think better. And personally, in my opinion, if you do a little too much thinking, you end up like Jack
Get in a serial
and the
killer.
Zizians here.
Yeah, that seems to be. I think they failed at their mission. Sounds like it didn't go well with thinking better. Seems like they thought the worst ideas possible.
Yeah, and so some of the early craziness they got into was Lasoda and several of the members were arrested for, I guess it was sort of a protest of of like a get together in the rationality community, but they were like blocking the entrances of this retreat in California, and they were wearing like black robes and I think masks. And so someone called the police and they ended up, getting arrested and charged with that. Because you can't you can't just like block entrances. And I think they're even charged with something related to child endangerment because there are like some children playing on a playground nearby when they were pulling this stunt. So that was before they started murdering people.
This is
And
where
I
it
think
starts. It starts at
yeah.
child endangerment. I mean, it starts with blocking the road or trespassing. That's so crazy.
Yeah, because I think you can kind of see how it escalates. I believe I want to say that was around 2019. So sort of in the 2010s, he kind of, I guess, split off from the rest of the community because they were sort of recognizing he was a little bonkers. Uh, because and I
Hold on.
guess
So they
yeah.
separate from the original guy who founded the group? Is that what you're
Or
saying?
no,
Like,
so the rationality community, it's mostly like an online community where they, get on forums and talk and write about stuff, thinky stuff. But Lasota, he split off because he was crazy and kind of, cultish.
they weren't radical enough for him, so he wanted to go even harder
Yeah.
into thinking better.
Well, yeah, most of the rationality people aren't necessarily that radical, but it's kind of the way I see it, he's further down the road because some of the ideas like utilitarianism, if you just kind of stick with, oh, let me rationalize a reason for why society's morals are the way they are, well, you'll still end up in kind of the same moral place where you say, hey, murder is bad, don't murder. But if you take
Right.
it to its logical conclusion, then it's, for the greater good. And in this case, that ended up with 4 murders that are linked to the group so
Oh
far.
my God. Oh my God. That's so crazy. So they splinter off, and then what happens next? How do they make that jump?
Yeah, so they basically they form a commune. I believe it's 4 people at that point. And in terms of the total size, I believe I've seen 10 total names who have been affiliated with this cult, this group, the Zizians, including, Ziz or Lasota himself. But at the beginning, and that includes 2 of them who have died in their murder attempts. Because for a murder cult, they're not very good at it. 2 of their murder, well, yeah, basically their assaults have resulted in 2 of the members being killed in self-defense. But to sort of get back to the timeline, they end up on this this piece of property in California. I am not really familiar with the geography out there. I was thinking I had the name written down somewhere. Basically, this guy, he's around 80 years old. He has this piece of property where he lets people, mostly like artists and stuff, basically set up their campers or their whatever, set up like a shipping container for, like a little art studio. So he basically has this property that he rents out like this. So the Zizians come. I believe there's 4 of them for them at the time, and they basically set up here, but they operate sort of like a commune. The people think they're weird. They're wearing black robes and stuff, and eventually they decide to stop paying rent because why would they pay rent? I'm not sure if they're fully communist. Most of what I read about them focused more on like the morality of it, their beliefs on morality.
Are they full trans right now? Are they trans in black robes?
Yes. So
Okay.
yeah. There's a little more nuance to the trans stuff because it kind of gets into how they are also cultish instead of just being like a group of trans people who
Okay.
who
All right.
hang
All
out
right.
and
All
murder
right.
people.
Yeah. Okay.
But basically, they're on this property. I think it was after COVID that they stopped paying rent. Because there's rent control and all that. I think they kind of took advantage of that. But basically, come 2022, the property owner, he's tired of them not paying rent, and I guess finally the COVID orders have backed off enough. So
Okay.
so basically, this
Yeah.
group hears that he's going to evict them from their commune, and they're not happy about that. So the story is, and I'm not sure how many witnesses there were to this, but basically the story is, one night they start throwing rocks at his, where he lived on the property. Obviously, he doesn't like that. They're trying to start trouble. Somehow in the morning, it escalates. I think they say that he started it. He and his friends say that they started it, but it ends up with him getting stabbed through the chest with a sword.
Oh, with a sword.
So it's like this 80-year-old guy. They cut him up. He loses an eye. He gets stabbed through with a sword, but he does manage to shoot one of them. Shoot and kills one of his attackers. And 2 more are arrested. Lasota himself, being the leader, obviously doesn't get his hands dirty, so they let him go.
Classic cult leader.
Even though he still had these charges pending from this protest that they had done years before. And I'm pretty sure in the meantime, I'm pretty sure it was before this, he had faked his own death. So he basically had his friends tell his lawyer that he fell off a boat when they were out fishing or something and that he was dead. But he shows up alive again at the crime scene. But for whatever reason, the police arrest the other 2 Zizians who are there, charge them with assault. But Ziz himself manages to escape and
hold on.
live to start another commune.
4 trans go after an 80-year-old, stab him. He loses the eye. He takes out one of them. And then the guy who faked his own death, the cops don't arrest him. And they arrest the other guys for simple trespassing? Is that how it's going?
Well, so the 2 who are arrested, I believe they're charged with like assault and maybe felony murder. So if you're not familiar with the felony murder rule, it's basically if you commit a felony and someone dies, you can be charged with felony murder even if you're not the one who directly killed him. So this property owner was the one who shot and killed one of the people attacking him, but they charged the other 2 attackers, I believe, with felony murder because it was their actions that led to, their fellow friend's death. And
That's
so I know
crazy.
Lasota and 2 of the attackers are trans. The third one, I believe he's still in jail. Based on the reporting by Andy No, whatever name that the California, I guess, jail system has him under, the court system, is not his real name. So it's probably trans, but we don't necessarily even know. But probably, because I mean,
you have all the weirdest, like, just the ingredients for a weird stew here. You got trans, you got murder, you got California. There you go. It's like those things together. Who knows who's who?
Yeah, and so in terms of trans stuff, one of the specific, I guess, quirks of the ideology that Lasota preached is this sort of duality based on your right and left hemisphere. So he kind of believed that you could be 2 separate persons. And so, like, one half of your brain could be trans and the other half could be not trans. And they would do this thing to induce what's called unihemispheric sleep. So basically, when one half of your brain goes to sleep, the other half stays awake. And there are animals that can do this because, they're watching out for predators or whatever. Humans can't really do it.
Yeah.
But if you're sleep deprived enough, which was basically their tactic where they would like rest half the body and then stimulate the other half. And apparently when you're sleep deprived enough and they keep doing that, you'll eventually develop a split personality.
Oh,
so when
my
these people
God.
are trans, and so they would also, I believe you also would like refer to the different halves by different names. So when these people are trans, they might only be half trans. Okay, because they have like maybe a little Jekyll and Hyde thing going on, and one is trans, one is not. Maybe they're both trans, but I think out of the
split personality, that's almost 4 people.
Yeah. Yeah, and so out of the 10 names that I put together from the various reporting, I believe 6 or 7 of them have a known trans alias or alias. I feel like I'm saying that wrong, but basically they have a trans name that's different than the regular name. The other ones might as well. I believe at least one or two of them are non-binary, like go by they them or whatever. But they might still use their birth name, and so that's part of where it gets culty. Is when you're when you have this process where you're sleep depriving people to intentionally develop a split personality. Um, that's a pretty crazy thing to do, right?
It's
And
so
it
crazy.
makes people dependent on you when you're sleep deprived. You're not thinking right because your brain isn't at full capacity, and also when you're intentionally driving yourself insane. I don't even know if it was something he did himself, but apparently, from what I read, this is something he would have his followers do.
Now,
Which
real quick,
probably,
the
yeah.
leader, where does he come from? Like, who cult leaders are charismatic people, but we always tend to find that there's kind of some weird invisible hand involved. At least the more famous cult leaders. Is there anything about him that sticks out that's kind of like, he was, his parents were military, he lived, anything like that you've discovered about him that makes him kind of somebody people would want to follow, or somebody like, because when you go, hey man, cops show up, some people get arrested, this guy doesn't. That's very much in the mold of a Charles Manson, where he would like be involved in a crime. Yeah, he wouldn't actually go to jail for anything. They would release him automatically. Had you found out anything about him in terms of his past or connections to intelligence or think tanks or anything like that?
Yeah, so Andy has done the deepest research on this, and I don't think I've really seen anything related to like his early life or anything. I think he, like many of the other members, was involved in the tech industry at some point out in California. That seems to be a common theme with them. Is that I think it was either Lasso or one of the other members who had like an internship at NASA at one point. So it kind of seems like they're Lasoda and the people who are recruiting, kind of come from I guess the thinkier side of humanity. I don't
So
know.
crazy.
Um,
Is
they're
he? I mean, like, I don't know if you'd found out if he was he rich. Did he come from rich parents? Was because like again, you go back to there's very interesting history in Marilyn Monroe, but Charles Manson, I think, went through the foster care system, and what I've learned by studying a lot of this stuff is that they're constantly collecting data on these people. Now, I don't know if this cult got big enough for them to do that, but was he a rich kid? Because it just seems like when you start getting into these weird ideologies of like half your brain sleeps, you tend to be a richer kid who doesn't have to worry about all the real problems in the world, like how to pay your bills and how you're going to keep clothes on your back and food in your stomach, and you're allowed to like kind of think about these kind of more I don't know how to say it, but this like kind of weird ideology that you're allowed to do, this idealism that maybe people with normal people problems or regular middle class, lower class people don't get to think about.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I've seen anything about his early life. I'm sure more will come out.
Yeah.
As people continue to look into it, especially since I believe he was just arrested in Maryland. He and a couple members of his group that had previously been at large. And so basically, like he studied computer engineering. And I think that's he and some of the members of the group had that in common. Computer engineering, programming, or in the engineering space in general. I think more recently their group has been sort of bankrolled by. It's been reported that they are bankrolled by one of the members who was from Germany. I believe his parents were, like big in finance or whatever. So the reporting
What?
is that that member had been funding the group, and that member Felix Bockholt is the one who was killed in the shootout with Border Patrol in Vermont. I believe that was last month.
Hold on. Who was shot in a shootout?
Yeah, so you might have heard this. It was, I think it might have even been the same day as Trump's inauguration. Is that basically there are these two people traveling in Vermont. They are wearing black. One of them was, open carrying a handgun, and so like a hotel employee called the police and was like, "Hey, these people are kind of suspicious." So the Vermont State Police get in touch with the FBI. I guess they ended up getting in touch with Border Patrol because the car was driven by this German national, and so the Border Patrol tries to pull them over. One of the guys, or I guess the female who was driving, she gets out, starts shooting at police. The German, he has a gun as well, even though I think that's illegal. And so basically, in the ensuing shootout, the German is killed. Border Patrol agent named David Mayland is killed as well, and
Oh,
the
wow.
other shooter was injured. And that was sort of how this whole case kind of blew up, is that people started putting the pieces together and realized they were associated with this Zizian cult.
Hey guys, real quick, I want to tell you about our good friends at Wise Wolf Gold and Silver. Listen, if you're paying attention, you know that the de-dollarization is real. Fiat is fake, and you don't want to be left holding the bag when the dollar collapses. Okay. Gold and silver have been money through all of the recorded history and are excellent ways to protect yourself from inflation and geopolitical turmoil. That's why I trust my good friends at Wise Wolf Gold and Silver for all things precious metals. Veteran owned and an A plus rated by the Better Business Bureau. No transaction is too big or small. You can even roll your 401k or IRA into physical gold and silver. And if you think you can't afford precious metals, then think again, okay? With Wise Wolf Gold and Silver memberships, you can get gold and silver delivered directly to your door for as little as $50 a month. Okay. Wise Wolf Gold and Silver also deals in and accepts Bitcoin. Just go to samtripoli.gold. That's samtripoli.gold. Promo code tinfoil at checkout to receive a free constitutional silver. And remember, in a world of bulls and bears, be the wolf. Thank you, Wise Wolf Gold and Silver, for sponsoring this show. So you're, were we putting a number? How many people were in the cult? Did you say, was it 4 or 10, or what was that number?
So I've when I was counting the names that were connected together in various articles, I came up with 10. I guess we don't necessarily know all who were associated with them. So Lesotho was previously active on the internet, writing articles for a blog and stuff where he kind of talked about his ideology. I think he ended up deleting that, and over the past couple years, they haven't been as open or as public with their with their activities. So we don't necessarily know. They definitely could have members that we've never heard of before. But I think that kind of gives you a rough, order of magnitude sort of scale as to how many people associated with this group there are.
So right now we're at 2 people dead. We have, before we get into the actual thing, so their ideology is the split hemisphere, or is it an ideology of like where kind of like trans are higher levels of human beings and they operate on a spiritual level that binary people don't understand, or like what was actually?
Yeah, so they did consider themselves to be on a higher level than ordinary humans, but it wasn't necessarily specifically because of the trans stuff. So basically, Lesotho taught that your 2 hemispheres, there were 2 different states they could be in. They could either be good or non-good, and basically that was how much moral agency you have. So, ordinary people, they have 2 non-good halves, and so they would call them zombies. Basically kind of like the idea of NPCs. That most people are just wandering around the world, doing their thing, not really thinking about much. So Lesotho, and I believe they said that was like 95% of the population. So Lesotho's followers, they had one half of their brain was good. Okay, it was turned up. It was the next level. So they're kind of halfway there, and so they have more moral agency than the average people, but not as much as Losoda himself, who had both sides turned on. So they basically saw themselves as like, oh, we can
Disciples.
think and we can understand what's right and wrong, whereas the average people, they're just going about their day-to-day business, not really worrying about anything.
It's so weird to me that people follow people who just like suddenly just figure something out. It's almost along the lines of like, Bill Burr's bit about like, L. Ron Hubbard's, their like leader stubbed his toe at some point. It's like the Scientology people, they follow someone who's like a human being that was alive only a short time ago. It's very weird to me when people get behind somebody who just acts like they figure something out that humanity never figured out before. It's just interesting to me. And it gets into this desire as human beings, but as mammals as well, to like be a part of a pack, be a part of a group, and finding that group that just fits. It's like the blind melon girl. I don't know. You might be too young for that video where it was a blind melon had a song and a music video. A little a chubby girl dressed as a bumblebee was just lost, and then she found this group of other people dressed like a bumblebee, and it was like this harmonious moment where they were all dancing together. It seems like that seems to be the story of people in cults. Like they're lost, they don't can't find, and then they just find somebody and they just assimilate, even if it's absolutely insanity. They seem to assimilate because it allows them to be a part of a group. And sounds like if you're only 10 people, you're really early into the group. So you have a chance of, being a disciple or something at that point. You're so early into the game, dude. You could have a big name in this group that might change the way the world works. It's super interesting to me.
Yeah, and I think sort of, in terms of the psychology of joining a group like this, I think that might have played into, most or all of their members being trans. It's not really clear, since we don't know too much about the individual people, whether he found people who were already trans and maybe felt isolated or looking for something to cling to. That seemed to be the case, and at least one of the members who went on to probably murder her parents or his parents. But I'm assuming, that was, sort of cut off from her parents, isolated, maybe was looking for some community. As to the other members, I don't think we necessarily know whether they were already had this transgender identity when they came into contact with Losoda and began following him, or whether this was something that he convinced people of with his, split personality tactics.
So let's listen. So we right now we have a 10 to 8-year-old being killed. Then we have a Vermont state trooper being killed. What were the other crimes that they committed? I know you just mentioned, but you got any more details about that?
Yeah. Yeah, so I believe, yeah, so basically there's this double murder in Pennsylvania. A couple who is killed. I believe they are found murdered in their home. And I want to say this was in okay, so it was New Year's Eve 2022. So I think that would have been shortly after they stabbed this landlord. So I think at the time the police weren't really sure, why this couple had been randomly killed. Now, I think they're able to obtain some audio from nearby ring cams where indicating that their child was present, when the murders happened. This child who also happened to be a member of this group. So I believe her name is Michelle Zajko. And she is transgender, identifies as Jamie. So her parents are the ones that are killed, and now it's thought that she and possibly other members of the group were involved in killing them. And she was also the registered owner of one of the firearms used in that Vermont shooting where the
Oh
Border
my
Patrol
God.
agent was killed. So that's one of the ways where, various ways that, Annie Know and other reporters have been able to sort of tie this together as, oh, this is related. I don't think it's really been coming from, I don't think law enforcement has taken the lead in exposing this cult, exposing how this is all linked together. It's more, journalists sort of putting the pieces together and being like, oh, we're reading this court document and this person also shows up in this other court document
Oh my
related to
God.
this group. So basically, yeah, this I don't know if they've actually filed any murder charges yet for that Pennsylvania murder because as I understand it, Zajko was one of the three members who was arrested just this week in Maryland. So Lesotho, Zajko, and another member named Daniel Blank. Very definitely sounds like a real name, Daniel Blank. I'm sure that's his real name.
And they're all
Um,
trans.
so I'm not sure if Blank is, but Lesotho and Zajko. And so there's that murder, or those two murders. Those are two that associated with the group, likely committed by them, because I believe Zajko had written or messaged people about how she really hated her parents. She blamed them for like being bad parents, I guess. I I don't know that she specifically accused them of anything that would like actually be a crime. um, but I guess
But was she a
she
boy at some point in her life and then she became a girl?
no. So I believe
Oh, it's the other
my understanding
way.
is that Michelle is her birth name and Jamie is what she identifies as
Oh, okay.
now.
Respect. I understand.
So I don't know if that sort of transgenderism. I mean, I'm guessing, I don't know, maybe it was because of her relationship with her parents, or maybe that, that inflamed it. I think there's often parental relationships involved in that sort of decision.
Were any of them,
But
any other of them female to male?
um,
Or was it mostly male to female?
I believe it is mostly male to female. So Lesotho is a male. The names I'm looking at here. So I believe so the survivor of the Zizian who survived the Vermont shooting, got injured. They arrested her, took her to the hospital. She is I'm not sure if she's female to male or just female to ambiguous, but she is also
Oh, yeah. Okay. Respect.
born a female. So
Okay.
I think she might be a they them or something,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
she did
yeah,
pick
yeah,
a new
yeah, yeah,
name.
yeah.
So
Depends on the moment, minute to
yeah.
minute.
But it does seem to be primarily males in this cult, They are known for being more murdery in general.
It's just
But
interesting to me. I don't know. Are you a millennial? Are you a Gen Zer? What are you?
I think I'd be Gen Z on the
Gen
early
Z,
end of
you're an
Gen Z.
interesting demographic, man. You're an interesting generation. You guys, like, I don't know if you guys are more sensitive than millennials. As a comedian, I tend to think you guys have a better sense of humor than the millennials. But you're also not afraid to shoot people. It's like unbelievable. You guys will pull out a gun and
Yeah,
start
I don't know.
blasting people. It's kind of crazy.
I'm not sure the age of all these people. I think they would be millennials. I could be wrong.
Okay, then screw them. We all agree on that. I think that's what the Gen X and the Gen Zs can come together and agree with. Fuck the millennials. We got that, dude. We agree on that. Okay, interesting. But it is interesting that trans are just shooting people left and right. It's an interesting thing, especially seeing that for a very long time. We've been talking a lot about, like, just the respect of the lifestyle and trying to give them as much, like, support and comfort. And it just seems like they've seemed to be going a little crazy right now. I don't know. It's like the shooting of Trump, shooting up schools. It's an interesting what's the word pattern here, it seems to me.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how much of that is sort of like I don't know, an overlap between people who are psychotic and people who are transgender, or whether it's more of part of the, what do they call it? Like the social contagion. I think that's probably definitely some of what's going on with like the recent school shootings or attempted school shootings, where they hear about another transgender person and they're like, oh, this person either got the revenge they wanted or got the attention they wanted, or got some sort of thing that I want too. And then, they go out and plan their own. I believe there was just one recently arrested. I'm drawing a blank on the name of the place, but I think just in the last week there was another one who was fortunately arrested before they could carry it out.
After the school raised money for them to help them in some kind of situation where they were in the hospital, then they were going to turn around and shoot. I mean, it is a little, I mean, this is a conspiracy show you're on. I don't know if you know that, but it's a conspiracy show, and we discuss a lot of the, let's just say, social, cultural movements. And there is kind of this movement to normalize this lifestyle, and, almost at gunpoint, like this kind of like, they are people, we must respect them. And I don't know your political affiliation, and it's fine. I love everybody, but it's like, when I drive down, I live in Hollywood. When I drive down the street and I see a trans person homeless with a haunted wig, and they're trying to convince me that this is some unicorn, I go, I don't know if that's necessarily fitting the data that I have learned through my 52 years on this planet. So it's just an interesting thing of like trying to convince you not to trust your eyes, your ears, or the wisdom of your experiences. Guys, the crypto market has been crazy. That's why you gotta follow someone who knows what they're doing, and there's no better place than Copy My Crypto. James McMahon and Copy My Crypto are the best place to find out what cryptos are about to pop. So let me tell you about James McMahon and Copy My Crypto. Has it pissed you off to watch crypto fly up in prices for a decade and you still have done nothing about it? It makes sense. Crypto's complicated and really boring. Well, here's the good news. You don't need to know a thing about crypto to make money like so many have. The CopyMyCrypto.com membership site shows you the exact cryptos that YouTuber James McMahon personally owns, which means you just got to copy him. It's like having a big brother who knows what he's doing. You don't need to know a thing about crypto or how to invest. Just simply copy along. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about James. He runs the Crypto with James YouTube channel, which has over 54,000 subscribers. In the summer of 2020, he told his viewers to buy 26 cryptos. Had you put $100 into each, it went on to be well worth $123,000. Of the 26 cryptos, his top pick of the year, the one he singled out called Phantom, went up 692 times from when he said to buy it, okay? That one call alone has retired a number of people, including guys in their 20s and 30s. Remember, this is public knowledge. You can go to YouTube and verify for yourself. So if you'd like to join the 2,800 members who have copied James, then pause what you're doing and head over to copymycrypto.com/TFH. That's copymycrypto.com/TFH. That's TFH. You'll not only find proof of everything I said, but my viewers will get a full access for just $1. Yes, you've missed out on Bitcoin, but there's over 2 million other cryptos. Do you really think you've missed out on all of it? Guys, don't waste your time. Go to the site and read it. Once again, that's copymycrypto.com/TFH. Guys, it's ended money worries for so many. It may just do the same for you. Copymycrypto.com/TFH.
Yeah, and I had something that I was just about to say, and now it's completely gone out of my mind.
I'm sorry. It will hopefully come back. That was a little long rant, but we're at one guy stabbed, one state trooper killed, 2 parents killed. Are there any other crimes? And
Yeah,
you're
so
telling
there's
me the cops aren't linking this. It's journalists that are linking these deaths.
Yeah. In terms of sort of the overarching of these all being members of the same group that are responsible for these. So there's a fourth homicide I am aware of that's attributed to the group. And that's not counting, their own members who die sort of impaled on their own swords, so to speak. One was shot in self-defense by the landlord we discussed. Another one was killed in the shootout with the border patrol. So there's one more that I'm aware of, and that is actually that very same landlord. So they have these 2 members in jail who are, charged with assaulting this landlord, with stabbing him with a sword. I think they might have cut him with other weapons as well. So they're in jail, and then one day, boom, the landlord is murdered. Someone ambushes him outside of his house. I believe they stab him, cut his throat. He's dead because he is the only witness who could testify against those 2 in jail.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And so they make an arrest in this murder of the landlord, would-be witness. And what do you know? It's someone who had filed a certificate to get married to this lady involved in the shootout in Vermont.
Oh my
So one of the members
God.
of the group killed this landlord so he couldn't testify against 2 other members.
Dude, that is some mafia shit right there. Holy cow. That's incredible. Damn. So somebody made a call. Hey, go take care of that. And he went and took care.
Or they I'm not sure whether the call was made from I guess we don't really know how much sort of the internal workings necessarily, how much Lesota is directly ordering people around versus being more of a thought leader and sort of the teacher. So we don't necessarily know how the enforcement side of things work, but yeah, definitely a very violent group, and we can sort of get into how the violence intersects with their ideology if you want to get into that.
So we don't know if it was a phone call from inmate to person on the outside, or it was a call from the right hemisphere to the left hemisphere that made it suddenly.
Yeah. Could have been either way. Could have been him just deciding, hey, this will be a good thing to do. I'm gonna save my buddies who are in jail.
Right.
I don't think we necessarily know how the planning and plotting of that attack took place.
Okay, all right. So let's get into how this kind of either fits in or clashes with their ideology.
Yeah, so basically like I said with the rationality community, they're people who think a lot, and they think about thinking, and they think about thinking about thinking. And so in terms of the hemisphere stuff, that is where Lesota sort of that wasn't an idea that was widely accepted. Probably just him and the members of his, because it's kind of out there, right? Like, your hemispheres are 2 different people. Like, they're not like scientific evidence or anything to back that up. So most of these thinkers would not agree with that. But what he did share in common with them is this sort of utilitarianism, though he definitely took it to an extreme that, obviously the vast majority of these people in this internet, this online community, most of them are not going around murdering people. So basically utilitarianism is it's basically, for the greater good, the ends justify the means. And you put that together with, they're also all vegans because they have this equivalency between human life and all other life. I don't know exactly how far they take it, whether they take it to bacteria or whatnot, but they take it to animals. So basically, they see everyone who's not a vegan as a murderer. And so they feel justified in killing people because basically in their worldview, they're the only right ones and basically everyone else is horrifically evil. Now, remember, they believe most people don't have their brains really turned on, so they kind of view them as evil, but they don't necessarily know what they're doing. But it's still okay to kill them because once again, they're evil. They're not vegans. They're killing animals. They're eating them.
They
And
literally
so,
act like Grand Theft Auto. They just still run over somebody, and it doesn't matter because that's an NPC, and they're not really thinkers.
yeah, there definitely seems to be some elements of that where they see themselves as superior. Now they haven't gone on any killing sprees yet. It's kind of their killings have been targeted so far. The first attack was on their landlord because they didn't want to pay him rent and he was going to evict them. The next killings were these parents that the members believed were abusive, and then one was the border patroller coming after them, and they decide to turn that into a shootout. So the killings have been directed so far, and that also plays into part of the ideology as well, which is a sort of interpretation of game theory, where it's if you know that I will resort to extreme violence, then you're less likely to come after me, right? So if I've already decided that anytime you come after me, I'm going to try to kill you, you might leave me alone, right? So that sort of plays into it where their morality justifies it, but then when they choose to murder is based more on this if we kill people, then they won't mess with us, which hasn't turned out to be the case because I think now the majority of them are either dead or in jail.
So it basically becomes uh this weird kind of defense where it's like self-defense, even though it's not self-defense, or are they trying to act ultra violent so you're afraid of them?
Yeah, so I think it's more the former, where they see it as self-defense, but they would also see, like, demanding rent from them would be aggression. So they're self-defending themselves against you demanding rent to live on your property, or self-defense against Border Patrol pulling you over, or we
Is
don't
it
really
like
know
a
the
communism in some weird way? This idea of property rights and why do you get to own property? Why can't this be my property too? Why, if I'm standing here, do you think that is anything kind of what they're getting into, this weird kind of super duper form of communism?
Yeah, and their ideology is so far out there that I'm not sure of all of the elements where it conflicts with normal ideology. There does seem to be some element of that regarding property ownership, where their beliefs don't align with the average person's idea that you can actually own things, because they do appear to have been living in a commune type of arrangement in California, and also when they moved to North Carolina. They brought their box trucks with them that they had sort of lived in as a weird sort of commune sort of thing. And then these two members who are up in Vermont were reportedly looking for land in Vermont where they could build another commune. So I didn't see anything specific, when I was doing a little reading in terms of like them not believing in property. But it does seem they didn't really believe in landlords, and they also like living as communes. So definitely some communist elements there.
That's so crazy. So crazy. This ideology of like just we're gonna kind of create our own breakaway civilization on your land, and if you get mad at us and demand rent, we're gonna kill you. And I mean, it just sounds bonkers to me. The whole thing just sounds absolutely bonkers. I mean, trans, communist, murder, cult leaders. I mean, you're checking all the boxes right there.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost
Vegans. We
um
forgot vegans.
yes, exactly. And yeah, it's like if you wrote this as fiction, everyone would be like, "No, that's crazy. You're just making fun of leftists." It's like, "No, this is a real group that exists. This is really what they believe." And yeah, they really have probably been involved in at least four murders so far.
It's nuts to me, especially when you're trying to be like, we have this evolved version of the way we should behave, and it devolves into murder. Like right there, it kind of like I don't know if our ideology is right when we end up murdering people because they don't do what we want them to do. It's so interesting. The whole thing is just so interesting. And it gets into the spiritual stuff where, like for me, I'm a Christian. You get the farther from God, the higher the anxiety, the higher the, those who get closer to God, lower anxiety, those who get farther from God, just you get into a crazy place of vegan, communist, trans serial killers, which is
Yeah, and
called.
Antifa as well. Antifa as well.
Oh,
We can get
Antifa's
into
in
those
here too?
elements as well. Yes, yes, we can get into that. We can get into
Yes,
that. But yeah, I think
please.
definitely what you're saying is right. Is that yeah, when you're closer to God, when you're listening to what God says, like, hey, don't kill people, things turn out well for yourself. And if you're living in a society like ours, Western civilization, that has been heavily influenced by the Bible and by, putting a lot of that into practice, our laws are informed based on that. If you take an idea like utilitarianism, the ends justify the means, a lot of people just use that to come up with a non-God explanation for why things are right is wrong. But they somehow just happen to come up with the same things being right and wrong that they are raised to believe. Okay? Because most people believe what they believe because they were taught that growing up.
Yeah, I
So when
agree.
you're an adult, you might come up with an alternate explanation for why you believe, but then somehow you ended up at the same conclusion and you decided that the path you took there would be a different path. But then you have this very small minority that actually takes that to its logical conclusions, plus a couple other ingredients of veganism, of this all life is equally valuable. Humans aren't special, and then add in a dash of this hemispheric thing. Now you're out there killing people.
So crazy. It's just such a crazy reality. I mean, when we study a lot of you study Hollywood, you get into the occult, you get into old gods, we call them, the Zoroastrianism gods, the Babylonian gods, all that stuff. There's a lot of trans history in there, trans cults, trans priests in the old temples and stuff like that. And you see this kind of push to push that on society and stuff like that. And like, dude, live your life again. If you live your life and you don't murder 80-year-old landlords or your parents or your state trooper, like you'll never hear anything from me. I live your life. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. You connect with God in your way, and we'll all find out who's right when it's all over. So, um, but there seems to be this kind of push into this kind of lifestyle that can, you see the memes all the time, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful to anybody, but you see the memes all the time, but like unattractive person, and then there's this like picture of like medication and says they them on it, and it's like, oh, now you can kind of be special. You see that, and it's like enticing to people, gives people kind of a purpose in their life to believe and act a certain way. And again, you see it happen all the time. I live in LA. I used to walk up and down Hollywood Boulevard just watching people. And, whenever a building goes up for sale in Hollywood on Hollywood Boulevard, Scientology will come and buy it. They'll buy it right up, and now will be another Scientology building. And you look at the Scientology people, they're very like normal looking people. Nobody stands out, nothing. And it's just like they just want to be a part of a group, an ideology. And no matter how crazy the ideology is, whether you're getting into like Scientology or everything like that, trans, vegan, communism, antifa, it gives you purpose. You're connected with somebody, and and it just gets into these really wild situations. And this is it. So, and then Antifa shows up. So I'd love to hear about that as well.
Yeah, which that's sort of the interesting thing is that they appear to be strongly anti-fascist, but it's it's so much of a minor part compared to some of the other wacky things that they believe. But yeah, so I've reported on Antifa in the streets. I like to think I have somewhat of a handle of the movement, and basically the way I see it, what differentiates Antifa from other leftist groups is basically fighting fascism by any means necessary. So kind of the same, the ends justify the means. But the flip side of that coin is, of course, a very broad definition of fascism, which would include basically everyone on the right side of the political spectrum and most of the people on the left as well. You know, they Antifa mostly gets out in the street to protest right wingers, whether it's Trump or whether it's like, you know, Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk or something, or Michael Knowles. But they have on occasion protested Democrats as well. You know, I reported on Antifa Black Bloc style demonstration on election night 2020, where they were going out before the election was called to hold a protest saying, we don't really like democracy. Okay, so Antifa, not really fans of either side. I sort of lost where I was going with this, but basically, yeah. So there is at least one member, and I believe multiple that had definitely expressed this Antifa anti-fascist ideology online, where we know, hey, this is you know, one of the things that the people were thinking about.
Antifa's kind of like the purge. I always feel like it's just like when you see these Antifa arrests happening. I mean, these protests. It's almost like they're just rich kids that just don't think the laws apply to them, and they start committing crazy crimes. They're rioting, burning shit down, beating people up, and it has kind of the purge, especially during like the BLM Antifa riots of like the 2019 and 2020 and all that stuff, or I don't know when they started, but that just seemed like it's like, hey, we're going to commit stuff, and even if we get arrested, we're going to get let out. And that seems what this Antifa stuff seems to be.
It's basically like Antifa has the ideology gives you a fairly broad range of targets that you can use as an outlet for your aggression. You can smash business windows because capitalism is bad, and you can attack police officers, or you can attack right wingers. You can get into fights with them and sort of scratch that itch in your brain. And so for the Zizians, they have an even larger range of targets, because it's not just people who are politically active and not communists. It's basically everyone. Anyone who's not a vegan, anyone. So their range of targets is much more. So in terms of that, they're almost like super Antifa in some aspects of the ideology, where it's along the same lines, but it's so much more that they consider to be evil. Because that's, you know, what Antifa's sort of branding is, oh, we're fighting the Nazis. Everyone thinks the Nazis are bad, right? Well, they have their own definition of Nazis, which allows them to attack, you know, what,
everybody,
people who are obviously not Nazis. And so basically the Zizians are like that, but supercharged, where it's even more people they can attack, even more people, you know, who aren't, basically, if they're not with us, they're against us. So we, the special people, we're working towards the greater good, and everyone else will probably ignore them unless they get in our way. Then we'll go straight to extreme violence, because then people won't mess with us. That's kind of their ideology. And so with Antifa, even you know, people who go out in the street with the Antifa symbols, spray paint A's on stuff, even most of them, they're still bound by the general society's concept of morality. So most Antifa, even if they express stop, you know, fight Nazis by any means necessary, they're not actually going to go out and kill anyone, or there would be a lot more murders, because they might say that, they might say they adhere to it, but they don't actually do that in practice.
You're right.
Like if they really thought Trump was the next Hitler and they really believed in what they were saying, there wouldn't have only been 2 assassination attempts, right?
Right.
But the Zizians, they say this crazy stuff, and then they actually do crazy stuff.
I mean, they actually go through with it. They actually go through it, which is so crazy to me. Which is so, again, we get into that, these trans, these non-binaries, Luigi Spaghetti, whatever his name is, he's coming out, he's gay. I mean, it's just unbelievable to me. Like, they don't give a shit, bro. They might be sensitive about words, but they will shoot a motherfucker for sure. They don't give a shit. It's crazy to me, dude. Wow. It's just nuts to me. So we got 4 murders, we got Antifa. I mean, everything's into this thing. It's such a crazy ass. I mean, what a reality that is. You're so detached from our reality that you live in this new reality where you end up just shooting and killing people. And so is this kind of getting into their ideology about murder versus terrorism? Is that what we're talking about right here?
Yeah, and that's what I was just about to bring up is that whether it's terrorism, I guess it's definitely bordering the line with terrorism. But the interesting thing is that sort to some extent they just want to be left alone and play by their own rules. You know, they want to go out and live in the commune and I guess not pay rent. Um, but they to some extent they want to do their own thing. So they're willing to murder people, but kind of just people who are playing by society's rules, like police or trying to pull them over or whatnot. But I mean, I think their ideology would certainly not hold that it's immoral to commit like a major terrorist attack, but is not necessarily, they just haven't done that so far because that doesn't really seem to align with their goals.
Yeah,
So
it's very
it's sort of
interesting.
interesting.
It is interesting. You're like, yeah, they believe animals are the equivalent of people. You know, they're vegans. They don't want to kill animals, but they'll kill people. It's a weird kind of mental gymnastics that doesn't make sense to me. And maybe they see the ends justify the means, meaning if I kill this person, it allows for our ideology to move forward, which is terrorism, right? That's kind of what terrorism is, and whatever organically terrorism is. Like I always say, there's an invisible hand of that, problem, reaction, solution. But whatever the means justifies the means justifies the ends, right? Like, so it's like if I'm going to kill this landlord, well, it justifies it if it allows us to live our ideal organic life that we want to live. That's kind of leave us alone on this compound. It's not murder. It's an act to allow us to achieve our goals.
Yeah, and I think the murder definitely has that terrorism aspect to this because it's basically like don't mess with us even and legally even if you're following the law, don't mess with us because then we'll kill you. And so in that sense it is using violence to, accomplish I guess a political goal, whatever the definition for terrorism is, but it's sort of an odd sort of terrorism because it's mostly a defensive focused terrorism.
And
It's
it's
not I'm
also
going to
very
go out in the street
specific.
and shoot people. It's well, if I'm walking down the street and you try to stop me, bam, you're dead.
Yeah, it's also kind of like, well, if Bob is being a dick, I'm gonna kill Bob, and it's not murder, it's an act of terrorism. It's like it's not really it's interesting. It's a weird way of thinking from a bunch of people who have a weird way of thinking, It blows my mind. It's like, oh, I'm not committing murder. I didn't murder Bob, I committed terrorism, which
Yeah,
is
and it's
kind of more of a
like where do you even draw the line with terrorism? Because like if you go up and walk down the street and smash some windows because you like smashing windows, well that's a crime, but it's not really terrorism. But now if you're Antifa and you're smashing those windows because you have some political goal, you're trying to terrorize people, you're trying to make them scared, you want to let them know that we're again you're evil because you're a capitalist, so we'll destroy your property. Now that kind of is adjacent to terrorism. So obviously low level compared to actually killing people, but it's like is murder worse because you had a reason for it? Like if you shoot someone just because you're mad at them versus shooting them because you want to send a message, like is one worse than the other?
no,
I don't
I
know. You're
agree.
you're still killing people.
It is crazy, dude. It is a crazy, crazy, crazy thing, man. And so, where are we at with them? Are they all off the streets? Are there still some roaming? Are they being hunted down by the authorities? Do the authorities kill? Are they doing catch and release? We're like, come on, you little
Yeah.
trans, go out there, have it. Come on, just be cool, just chill out.
Yeah, so my understanding is that there's two of them that are in jail from that first sword assault on the landlord. I believe they've kind of been having trouble keeping them in jail after the witness was murdered, because if
Oh,
you don't have a
really?
witness, are you going to be able to go to trial? But
That is
I think my
crazy.
understanding is that they're still in jail. The guy who's accused of murdering the landlord is in jail. The woman who survived the shootout in Vermont is in jail. And I believe it was just this week they arrested Lasota and two other members of this group in Western Maryland, sort of in a rural area of Maryland. Um, so that what let me use on my fingers. I think that would be 7 members arrested, um, and then 2 more members who are dead. So if there are still members at large, there aren't very many of them. And so they probably haven't charged them with all the crimes they've done. Um, but I think at this point, most of them are being held pre-trial in some way for various charges. And I think probably what we'll see as they make the connections is that there will be more charges against each of them, because you have the shooting in Vermont using a gun that's registered to another one. I suspect there's more ties that the police will find as they actually start to investigate this. So the FBI actually did a raid in Chatham County, which is somewhat near where I live in North Carolina, part of the area that I cover, where I think it was about, I think it was 2 weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, basically the FBI did this big raid in this quiet neighborhood, a little down the highway from a city, so kind of a quiet neighborhood, not quite rural, but almost there. So that the FBI flood in, they're searching the neighborhood, and it turns out this is where they had been camping out in North Carolina. I think they had rented a couple Airbnbs in this neighborhood, and they had also parked their box trucks there that they had been living in.
Dude, it's crazy. I'm looking at this thing that someone posted on your timeline. Any of these? Oh, no, he's asking if they're associated with it. Man, it is so crazy. So they raided something, and what they find? Sorry about that. I just
Yeah, so I'm not sure, they haven't disclosed that they found anything in this raid, but it did kind of show that, hey, after this Vermont shooting, they're finally taking the group seriously. This was a raid by the FBI, and then now we just heard that they ended up arresting 3 of them in Maryland. So I think it kind of seems like the police are finally getting involved with some perhaps federal coordination to say, okay, these aren't just random acts of violence. No, these are all connected. And hey, maybe we should kind of dig down to the bottom of this and find all the connections so that we can make sure we we charge each of them with each of the crimes they've been involved in. Because otherwise, because if you're involved in a murder but you're only arrested for assault, well, you're going to get off on a lot less, and you're going to be out a lot sooner. Versus if they can actually find all the connections and be like, well, no, you did this, you were an accessory in this murder, you helped out with this, and so hopefully
crazy.
they can put all those ties together.
Now, which one is Lasota? Is it the one with the kind of the brownish hair? Do you have a picture of her? I don't know if you can see it on there, but is that her? Is that the one right there?
Yes, yeah.
So
So
that's
that's, well,
Lasota.
it depends whether you use his preferred pronouns. He was born Jack Lasota. He's also identified as, I believe, Andrea Phelps. He's gone by that name, and he also goes by Ziz. So yeah, that's him. Um, kind of a certain look in his eyes that you wouldn't necessarily want to be staring down in person, especially if he's
That's
armed with a
so
samurai
crazy.
sword.
That's so crazy, dude. All this is nuts. We're gonna link all of it, man. Steven, thank you so much for spending some time with me, man. Is there anything we didn't cover? It was a great discussion, dude. Thank you for doing your research. I'm gonna link it all in there, and so people can check it out. I appreciate you coming on, brother.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And once again, shout out to Andy. No, he's done a lot of the groundwork, a lot of the police sources that got a lot of this information out there that otherwise we might not know about.
I'll link him in there. I'll link your stuff in there so everyone will know. And yeah, man, we really appreciate it. And I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. It was an emergency episode. We got to do it now. I thought it was a great topic after William brought it up. And I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for listening. Enjoy these highlights. Thank you. All right. I just wanted to have a little discussion about what we all listened to. I hope you guys enjoyed that. It was an interesting, dude. We're seeing this a lot, right? I mean, this seems to be what is going on in America right now. We've had this group of people who have kind of like tried to convince us that, alternative lifestyles are unicorns. And, when I grew up, you know, trans, cross dressers, all that stuff, they were outlaws. They were on the fringe, and that's where they lived, and that's where they wanted to live. And now got kind of this shoehorning going on. And again, everybody live your life. I'm never going to be one of those people to tell you how to live your life. If as long as you are not hurting buddy, do whatever you want at home. I don't care. As long as you're not hurting anybody, and particularly children, you won't hear from me. That's between you and God, and God gave us free will. And that's what you can exercise. And then you could deal with that during the, when you find out if you're going to heaven or not. That's really my opinion. Again, I have a bunch of friends I think are no longer with us because they couldn't handle their sexuality. And that's my whole opinion. Some people aren't going to like that, and there's nothing you could do about that. You can't make everybody happy. But again, this notion that, this is some kind of higher form of understanding and vibration. When I drive down Hollywood all the time and I see homeless people dressed as trans wearing wigs, whacked out on drugs, and then we get into the whole discussion about like suicides and all that stuff. And people want to be like, it's societal norms. I'm like, or it's drugs you're on and lifestyle, which tends to be pretty dangerous. Right. I mean, that's it. If you're on blockers or you're on hormone therapy or whatever that is, you can't tell me it doesn't cause psychological issues, seeing that we see advertisements all the time on the internet or on television for over-the-counter stuff, or even like prescription medication for nothing like changing your hormones. And they're all like, could cause suicidal thoughts, outbursts of anger, death, whatever it is. So I think we're living in a time where and people are starting to, again, we're getting to this place of common sense where it's like, live your life. We don't care. I really don't. We need to get back to social contracts. We need to have an agreement that in public, we all chill. But back to the kill. Yeah, dude, these guys are whack jobs. Cult leaders are just crazy people right now. Like some dude in a dress figured out the truth of the universe. I mean, just crazy shit. And it just goes to show you, if you're confident enough in what you're saying, people will listen, right? Oh, well, what do you think tinfoil hat is? Okay, maybe, dude. I don't know, man. But it's interesting. And we've seen a lot more of the violence. Again, I'm somebody who believes they've hardwired mysticism. And we're seeing that they could send out a vibration, send out a frequency that triggers people. I really do believe that. That's how they get people to act up right after events they don't want people discussing. Obama gets some scandal busts out with Obama. Next day there's a shooting at the Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl game. I mean, that's just how it is. That's how powerful this stuff is. This is how they were, So yeah. I mean, like the whole thing of cultural Marxism is, what is the quote? Let me see. 1984 quote. By the way, yesterday I started reading 1984. Not to believe. Hold on. Here we go. This is the quote. The party that told you to ignore the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command. He wondered, as he had many times wondered before, whether he himself was a lunatic, right? That's all this. That is all of that. That is what we're talking about here. I mean, this notion that people want to live a certain lifestyle. Again, live your life. I'm not judging anybody. I don't care. You do you, boo. Okay. But to sit there and be like, it is like unicorn shit is absolutely ridiculous. And that's kind of where we're at right now. Live your life. Okay. You're a guy, you want to dress like a girl. Listen, dude. And by the way, women dressing like men is way more acceptable in society. We all have PE teachers or FedEx people, hairstylists. They've been doing that forever. But a dude dressing like a chick weirds people out. It just weirds them out. And that's just the way it is, man. And you know, like for me, well, you know, I pick a certain, let's say, lane. I like to talk politics. I like to talk conspiracies. I like to talk about the darker side of society, our culture, because I find it interesting. That brings a certain energy, and that certain energy brings a just you know that certain energy turns some people off, weirds some people out. But you just gotta pick your poison, bro. How do you want to live your life? Most people are simple, and that's okay. Nobody hates them for it. I say live your life. Guys, real quick. So that's it. I'm not surprised by it. I think people are gullible. I think people whacked out on drugs, uh, ruining their body chemistry, are a lot more susceptible to a lot of stuff. I also think that over the past, we've had certain, again, live your life. I mean, do you guys see that that actress who was an actor, now she's an actress. She's complaining about her passport being changed to mail. You see that chick? You're like, that's a chick. You're like, nope. Nope. These trans are like iPhones. They're just getting slicker and slicker. And I have trans friends. I don't care. Live your life. I don't care. I don't care. But I'm also not going to go like, this is totally normal. And it's totally normal. You know, it just is what it is. You look at all these NBA players, they're hooking up with trans left and right. They're just bored. So I say live your life. I don't judge you. Live your life, but don't kill people. How about that? Don't kill people. Leave kids alone. We don't need to be pushing this stuff on children. When they turn 18, they can do whatever they want, light themselves up like a Christmas tree. Okay? That's it. If you want to have programs for the 1% that wants this, then put a program together. Just let kids live their life. It's hard enough to be a kid. You don't have to have this being pushed on you. Then you have confused white progressive parents trying to have you as a trophy, trying to use you as a trophy. Like, I'm not kidding. It's so trans. It's like some of these people have like 3 trans kids. It's like impossible. It's possible. Statistically impossible. But I guess I know somebody who has like 2 trans. She's pretty normal, I guess. I don't know, man. Maybe the rules are just changing as we go. But to each their own. I don't care. You won't hear me tell you how to live your life. You know, everybody's behavior and actions are between them and God, and whatever that may be. Okay. Guys, if you go to samtripoli.com, if you could, I want you guys to check it out. Check it out. A lot of great stuff going on there. Dude, I'm putting up so much content on samtripoli.com. Premium content too. Look, I put up like 3 or 4 this week. 3. Yeah, look at that, dude. Where is it? Whatever this is, which is exclusive to samtripoli.com. Whatever this is, 2 of those. Giant Cash reads the Bible. Exclusive, dangerous. Haven't done that in a while. Get back to that. Check out my live dates. Here we go. One more time. Louisville. Phoenix, Arizona this week. Louisville. Fort Wayne, Indiana. Detroit, Michigan. Tacoma. Bang. More dates coming. More dates coming. Yeah, here we go. Cash Daddies, $20. People are banking cash. If you know anything about stocks or want to learn about stocks, I'm getting in stocks. I'm buying some stuff that can just hold on. I'm not the buy and sell type of guy, but I'm doing it thanks to Cash Daddies. I'm telling you, the $20 a month is going to be worth it. You know, nothing's guaranteed. You're not guaranteed to make money, but they're killing it over there. Cash Twins, grab your copy now. And here we go. T-shirts for sale. Look at this, dude. The Fuck Zuck, the Eskimo Brothers, Populist versus Establishment. Why is everybody getting quiet? It's all here. Everything you need is all there. Again, gold and silver, Rife Technology. Get it. Get it. It balances out your body. Hydrogen bound gas. Everyone needs hydrogen. the Mineral King, Pat Miletich. Get your body right there. Chemical-free body. Harley Ray, EMF Rocks, keeping that dirty electricity away. I just talked to Joel Staley this week, getting back into it. Brain Supreme, it's crushing for Xavier Guerrero. Get it. And then if you're looking for a decentralized website, we're going to start going on Nuked more. Once a week, I'm going to get on Nuked. XG's going to get on Nuked. And Johnny should get on Nuked. There we go. And then all of my social media. Final thing, Doom Scrolling is every Tuesday at 2:30. So I want to send it to you. All right, guys. I love you. Thank you guys so much for listening to this emergency episode and enjoy these highlights. Thank you.
Here's a clip from the latest Broken Sim. Kathleen Kennedy is officially retiring from Lucasfilm.
I thought they fired her.
No, well, perhaps.
Or she was stepping down.
That today she announced she's retiring from Lucasfilm.
It's just like Trudeau. He's like, yeah, I resigned. He's still working.
Yeah, well, that was last year. So I couldn't be happier about that. This is a woman who has overseen the dismantling of the greatest film property in the history. The golden egg, the goose that laid the golden egg, literally, she destroyed. I mean, think about what she did to Star Wars, dude.
Yeah.
It was when they inherited it, it was like, oh God, this is good.
No, it was the buying of it was like, let's go. Listen, dude, here's the thing, man. There's this notion that like certain things that women do, women only understand, right? And you see it all the time. It's like why most of your morning television is women, because the whole belief is that moms stay home, right? That's who's watching television during the day, right? And that's why The View can be decades old and never have a male on there, right? Because nobody cares, right? But there is no sentiment that something for guys is just a guy thing. So I was seeing this whole thing. I think it was Top Rank Boxing or something on DAZN, or I forget what it was, TNT Boxing. It was two women calling the boxing match.
Fuck off with that, dude. It's so annoying.
Have you ever met in your life a girl, a woman, come up to you and talk boxing?
Never. Ever.
I mean, Sarah Tiana talks football. She talks baseball. I can listen to her. She's really good at it, okay? But that is a unicorn.
Oh, it's so disappointing.
And even if you can say you can get the 5 people in your life and you're Googling people to remember their names, you're not going to get past 5.
They ruined boxing, by the way. DAZN and all HBO letting go of Lampley and that whole crew just destroyed. Getting rid of HBO after dark boxing.
So Johnny, what have we
depressing.
said before here? Baseball, ESPN dropped all this baseball.
Yeah, we talked about it last week.
What do you think that has to do with? Oh, maybe because guys don't want to hear women talking baseball?
Yeah.
Nobody's going to tune in?
No, totally. And it's going to take, and I hope.
And nobody's talking about, real quick, sorry to cut you off,
no.
but no one's talking about, everyone's like, the game sucks. It's also the people that are paid to hype basketball are not interesting.
Yeah. I'm hoping now that with Bob Iger just being a practical businessman at Disney, that he'll try to get somebody like
Johnny
Dave Filoni, a real nerd, to step up, or like Jon Favreau, somebody who actually cares about Star Wars, a guy.
Yeah.
And maybe they'll step up.
But Johnny, it's going to be so hard to right the ship.
Like, so hard, because they fucked the canon.
No, because the whole middle of the organization is libtard brain rot.
No, and that's why the only way to do it really is what's happening in our government right now is just burn it all out, man. And that's what Doge's doing. You're seeing, did you see it? Like, this is going to be one of our stories at HUD. Somebody who works at HUD put up on the screen this AI footage of Trump sucking Elon Musk's toes.
Yeah, we had a big argument on Conspiracy Social Club about that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we had a big argument. What?
What was the argument? What?
Like, Dylan thought it was fine, and I thought it's like, hey, dude, this is a government building, and you're showing this video, and it's like, presenting as it's punk rock. You work for the government.
Yeah. No, they should be fired. Yeah.
They should be fired.
Well, they will be. I mean,
okay,
sure.
And it's just like, and Johnny, we both, maybe not you, but I have a porn addiction. Do you think I'm a prude?
Yeah, of course not. No.
Do you think I'm like, I do, like I'm grabbing my pearls? No, it's just like, We have to get back to social contracts. We have to. That's the only way we're going to save society is going chill the fuck out. And that's why I'm like, listen, there's a good chance, probably a small chance, Trump listens to this podcast. There's a small chance, like a very small chance, right? Yeah, Trump, if you're listening, legalize vigilantes. Legalize it. It's time to legalize vigilantes, dude. Okay? These Democrats have allowed these criminals run crazy. Republicans, legalize vigilante work.
Would you be out on the streets working?
Bro, I would get a posse and just roam my streets.
What does this have to do with the HUD thing? I don't understand. What the vigilanteism? What does that have to do with HUD?
Well, it just goes back to this whole thing about like the left has completely and utterly set fire to all of our social norms. And like you can go, well, there's some norms that should be gone. Like the way interracial couples were looked at.
Yeah, we should get rid of that.
Yeah, it's like, let you live your life. Whoever you love is whoever you love.
Oh, I thought you meant get rid of interracial dating.
Oh, okay, Johnny, I love that. That North Carolina came out there real quick. But, you know, a couple of those things like that. It's like, live your life. Who gives a shit, right?
Totally.
But it's like, you dress like a dog being pulled through the food court. I don't need to see it.
No, put it away. Yeah.
Fly your freak flag at home.
Modesty.
But
I will say though, I laughed, but then I was like, this guy has. I mean, you got to find out who this is and fire them. Publicly.
Johnny, the people that are cheering that were the people that didn't think it was weird that Saturday Night Live didn't lampoon Biden at all. It cost them their viewership.
It's okay to think both are funny, but that guy works for the government.
Listen,
he has to be
Johnny,
fired.
I would retweet that if it was on Twitter, if it was on Instagram, Pornhub, wherever that video of Trump sucking Elon, I would have laughed my ass off and retweeted it.
Shouldn't be on the TVs at HUD.
At a government office?
No, it's wrong.
I mean, like, why is that acceptable? And like, I'm not a prude. I'm just like, we got to get back to social contracts, deals, okay? We all chill in public, right? So the reason I bring this up and why it connects to what you're talking about Disney is that there's this whole phone call going around, right, of Karen Bass.
Oh, yeah. Okay, hold on.
Can you find that?
Yeah. Oh, this is. I got it in our news stories here.
It's almost like she knows she's being recorded, so she talks.
This is one of the craziest things I've ever heard.
She sounds like she's ordering 101 Dalmatians. Like, this is the voice she's doing? Like a Cruella de Vil? Like,
well, it sounds like to me that she doesn't want to be overheard by the people that are around her.
Yeah.
She's kind of talking low. This, I don't know. This really should have been.
I sent this to a bunch of people. The only person who got back to me was Eddie Bravo.
I got back to
busted.
I got back to you.
Yeah, you and Eddie Bravo. Dude, this is so insane. And you can say what you want about O'Keefe. I think he's doing great work.
I might have sent it to you after you already heard it. That's what it was. But yeah, James O'Keefe. Yeah, dude, I'm okay with that guy. That guy's to me. I don't know anything about his background. I know there's some weirdness with some of the things he's done, but to me, that guy's a hero.
All right,
I don't
here we
give a
go.
shit. All right, so this is Karen Bass for you. If you're not in LA politics, this is the mayor of Los Angeles who was away during the fires. This is 3 days before the first fire started, before anybody was talking about fire.
Yeah, this is right before she's about to go to Ghana.
Right, exactly.
Johnny here. It's 3 a.m. I just finished editing the episode. I'm about to upload it. This is my normal plea. If you would, just take a second, if you haven't, to review the show in whatever app you're in. If you're on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you're listening to it, you can also download it if you want to help us game the algorithm a little bit. It's very helpful. Okay, I'm going to speed this up a little bit. And if you want to get the show early, people on Patreon have already heard the show. Same with Rockfin. It's patreon.com/Broken Simulation. Rockfin, Broken Simulation there as well. You also get the video early with like 15, 20 minutes, sometimes 30 minutes of extra footage. Anyway, if you don't do any of that, we still appreciate you listening. Thank you so much. Enjoy the show.
All right, here's Karen Bass again. 3 days, January 4th. The fire started January 7th.
And if President Biden
start from the beginning.
Just in terms of my trip, just so you know, I'm missing 2 work days. That's it. And if President Biden extends me an invitation, I took it. And hopefully you can read in between the lines.
That's
but I would
so
just
creepy.
appreciate just and it's hard for me to tell you this, but hold tight. You will understand soon.
What?
So creepy.
If you'd like to hear the rest of this episode, subscribe to Broken Simulation in your podcasting app or check us out at youtube.com/SamTripoli.
We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Tinfoil hat.